Hello, and welcome to Zeno Media's podcasting series. In this series, we will be covering all things podcasting, including how to get started, editing, and how we can help you publish your podcast online to share with your audience. If you're watching this video, perhaps it is because you're interested in starting a podcast or learning more about what exactly a podcast is. You are in the right place. So, what is a podcast? First, let's go over the word podcast. The term podcast is a combination of the words pod, taken from Apple's portable media player, the iPod, and the word broadcast. To understand broadcasting, we have to go over a quick timeline. We start in the year 1999. This is when the first RSS was created. An RSS, Rich Site Summary, is a feed composed of files. These files automatically update information. This information is then captured by a feed reader and converts the files into a stream of updates. A few years later, in fall 2001, the first iPod was released. The iPod allowed people to carry around their entire music library in their pockets. No more tapes or CDs. In 2003, it becomes possible to send MP3 files to an iPod using iTunes via an RSS feed. Then, in 2005, the explosion. Apple adds a directory for podcasts to iTunes. Now, millions of users had access to podcasts, and within 2 days, there were over 2 million downloads. People were eager to listen and try out this medium. Now, let's define podcast. A podcast is a type of digital media, usually audio, that is available in a series of episodes or parts and is streamed or downloaded by the end user over the internet. Just like other media, podcasts come in different genres and formats. There are also different kinds of podcast creators, ranging from big podcast production companies to individual content creators, like you. So, what kind of podcast should you create? Let's look into 5 popular formats. The first being one-on-one interview. This is the most common format for a podcast. Just a host, a guest, and a microphone. What could be more simple? A popular interview podcast is the Joe Rogan Experience. The stand-up comedian and former Fear Factor host has guests ranging from astrophysicists to politicians. Next, we have the multi-host talk show. A multi-host talk show allows for vibrant and engaging conversations between 2 or more hosts. You can bring on guests or simply choose a topic for that episode and dive right in. Next up, solo cast or solo commentary. Think of this as your own radio show. Pick a topic of interest and talk about it, whether it's you giving advice on how to navigate being a new parent or discussing this week's episode of your favorite show. Another format is repurposed content. Perhaps you're a member of a church recording a service, or maybe you're an administrator conducting a workshop at a school. Your content can live on far past the time allotted for your Sunday service or that Monday afternoon workshop. It can now reach a much wider audience with a podcast. Finally, we have non-native fiction storytelling. Let's see what night show host Stephen Colbert has to say about one of the most popular podcasts.
Who don't know, Serial was the first major breakout podcast, the first podcast to ever be downloaded 1 million times, right? What is it like to be big time in podcasting? Is it all just golden microphones and diamond-studded water bottles?
Breaking download records and being one of the most famed podcasts of all time, Serial falls under this category. The first season of Serial was an investigative journalism piece on the murder of an 18-year-old student, Heyman Lee, in Baltimore. Whether it's a true crime podcast like Serial or a news report such as the New York Times' The Daily, this format focuses on real stories, real life. Now that we know some podcast history and different types of podcasts, we turn to how people can discover and listen to podcasts. Podcast creators distribute their content on different platforms. Popular platforms include Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. You can listen to a podcast from your computer or any mobile device connected to the internet. All popular platforms have apps, which enable easy access and discovery. A listener can listen anywhere at any time. So, with so many podcast formats and genres, it can be difficult to know what is best for you. But what's most important to remember is that you are what drives the podcast. You may notice that many of these popular podcasts are centered around a personality, the host of the program. For example, earlier we mentioned stand-up comedian Joe Rogan, who hosts one of the most popular podcasts, The Joe Rogan Experience. He is very much a personality. He is funny and engaging, which is why listeners continuously come back to each new episode. Your audience is tuning in for you. So now that we know more about podcasting, are you ready to get started? Be sure to continue watching this series to learn more about taking a podcast from a simple idea or passion into a full finished production. Any questions? Reach out to us by clicking on the blue chat icon on Zeno Tools. We are here to help you. Thanks for watching and happy podcasting!